So this tutorial is going to show you how to make a bar graph with some error bars using a full version of Excel. In a prior tutorial we went over how to calculate basic descriptive statistics using functions count, average, and standard deviation for the sample. And those values are here. So here we have a data set where we have 7 replicates. And these are supposed to be lengths in millimeters. And you can see in this particular study experiment, there was 2 treatments or 2 groups, and each group has a size. Sample size is 7. They have a mean, and then we also calculated standard deviation, and then we also calculated the high and the low value for your test ranges using the recommended significance test in your lab manual. But we're not going to need the high and the low value. Instead, to graph the error bars, we're just going to need the 1/2 of the standard deviation value to do that significance test. Recall that the significance test was to calculate ranges for each group. Let's say this is group 1, and you get the mean, and you're going to add and subtract 1/2 the standard deviation. And you do that, when you add, you get the high value, which is right there, and then if you subtract, you get the low value, and you're doing the half standard deviation from that. So those values have already been calculated. Now, this graph, we're going to make a bar graph, so I'm going to give you 2 bars. However, you can have larger data sets with more groups. So let me show you here. Let's say with this one has 3 groups instead, and then you can have even more groups. So keep that in mind as you can make your bar graph with more bars if you needed to. So the process is pretty simple. All you got to do is go to your mean. You're going to graph your means. These are the mean values for each of these datas, each of these treatments. Go and you highlight, and if we had more means, let's say there was data in the other columns for other groups, you would highlight those as well, but we're only going to do 3 bars in this example. So I'm going to highlight those 3, and then up in the menus here where it says insert, you're going to see a menu for charts, for graphs. You're going to pick a bar graph. You can just go with the first one there, and you can see it's automatically made the bars for me there. Okay. Now if you're going to insert this into your lab report, you're going to want to make sure, you're going to want to make sure that you don't have a chart title. Instead, you write a caption on the bottom, right? So this might be figure 1, and then you write a little description of what it is. These are the mean lengths for whatever. So what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of the chart title there. And we need to do a little bit of formatting. And one of the quickest ways to get there is when the graph is highlighted, there's a little plus sign here on the side. And you click on it, and I'm going to want axis titles. So we're going to go over here. We're going to go ahead and approve by checking on the horizontal and the vertical titles there. And so these are the groups here, the bottom. So there's a group 1, 2, and 3. Or you can say they're treatments. And so you type those in, and you put their title there. And then the quantity that was being measured during the experiment was length. And so you want to type that in. And then if there's units, you make sure you put the units as well, so that it appears there on the axis title. So let me make the graph a bit bigger here. Increase the font size. Okay. And so you can do a lot of other formatting things, but want to get to how you do the error bar. And in order to do the error bar, we are going to use not the high and the low values with this using Excel. Instead, we're going to use just the 1/2 standard deviation value and get Excel to make the high and the low value for that range. So the ranges we calculated in the last video here, for example, this mean of 27.9 for the first treatment, the high value for the test range. It's not the highest value in the data set. It's the test range is half the standard deviation above and below. So on these bar graphs, we're going to want to draw error bars that go 1/2 the standard deviation above and below for that group. So each group has a different standard deviation, so these error bars are going to be different sizes. And all of this is so we can compare them to see if they overlap or not. So we can go ahead and do this, and the way you can get to the error bars here, you click on here, and then go down the list as error bars there. And we're going to need to go to options. We're not going to do standard error percentage. You're going to do the more options. This little menu pops out here on the side there. You got to be careful that you're on the bar there, not in any of these other options here. Okay, so we're going to go to the bar there. And there's a bunch of options here, but we're going to go down to where it says custom. And custom, we're going to have to specify the values. So when you click on that, it's going to give you this little dialog box here, and it says, give me the positive error values and then give me the negative error values. So all you got to do here is go click on that little arrow there on the side there, and that's going to allow me to go select the data that I want. So remember, we want to go positive above 1/2 standard deviation. You're going to go and select those 3 values there for each treatment, and that's going to graph that value. So for the first bar, it's going to graph 1.9 above the bar. Above the bar is the mean. For the second one, 2.9, and the other one, whatever that value is hiding behind there. And so you do that, and then you got to go and highlight the same values for the negative errors. We're going to go here, and we're going to go highlight the 1/2 standard deviation again to give us the low value. And then when you click OK, you see the bars have appeared there. Okay. So all that's left now is to do some formatting. That'll make things a little bit better there. For example, I can barely see the error bars there, so we might change the fill here. And so you can just mess around with it. And here, and so for the fill, I'm going to change it from blue to maybe white, so it's easier to see. Now the error bars, I think by default, don't have an outline, so we want to go here and go to the border and then do a solid line. And I think the default's black on this in this particular case. So now that looks much better. And you can see that. The other thing you're going to need to do is it would be good if you can actually label these treatments not 1, 2, and 3, but label them what they actually are. For example, one might be the control, so you would label it control, and then the other one might be whatever the treatment was for that group that you were testing. And usually in my tables, I like to write the names of those groups. And here I just very generically put treatment 1, treatment 2, treatment 3. Treatment 1, for example, it might say control on the top there. So how do we change that there? So what we need to do is go up to where it says chart design up here. Your graph has to be highlighted. See, I'm clicking on there. If I'm not clicked on there, then that disappears. But if I click on the graph, then I get those options. You're going to go to chart design and then go to select data. And then right here where it says edit, you can see the numbers 1, 2, and 3, which is just the default. So we're going to click on that, and we're going to say, well, where is the label range? Well, our labels are over here, so what we want to do is click on that arrow, and then go highlight the names that we want to put in there. So I'm going to highlight those 3 names, treatment 1, 2, and 3, or whatever the names of your groups are. Remember, you may have more groups, so you'd have to highlight more. Then click on that arrow again and then click OK, and you can see that the names have changed from 1, 2, and 3 to treatment 1, treatment 2, and treatment 3. And then you can do some other things, like we can add minor grid lines if you wanted. I want the minor horizontal lines there. And so there you go, and now you can take this graph, control copy it, and then paste it onto your report. Now, if you don't have the full version of Excel and you're working on the web version, they don't have all of these options. So you would need to actually have the full version of Excel. Now, if you don't have the full copy, then you're just going to have to draw it by hand, your graph, draw it accurately, and then take a picture of it and then put it into your report. Now, take a look real quick. What was the purpose of these error bars? Your means are always going to be different. You're never going to get exactly the means because we don't know what the true means are. We can run this experiment 100 times and get different means each time. And sometimes a mean that's smaller might be bigger a few of the times, but most times if there's a pattern there, we'll see it. So what we're going to do is we're going to make an inference, and we're going to use those error bars to judge. So recall, this is the significance test back when we did an earlier lab. If these error bars do not overlap, then we get a significant difference, and that means the alternate hypothesis is the one that's accepted. If the 2 error bars do overlap, then those means aren't significantly different. Now overall here, treatment 2 and 3, the error bars overlap. You can see the high value right here. If I go and just draw an imaginary line coming this way, it actually runs into the other error bar. So those 2 error bars overlap. So these 2 means, although they're different, they're not significantly different. In other words, whatever we did with these treatments didn't have an effect one over the other one. Both behaved the same way with that treatment. But if we look and compare to treatment one right here, the top of that error bar is well below this one. And if we continue out this way, it's even below this one. So treatment one is significantly different than both treatment 2 and 3. So there's a difference there. Whatever treatment 2 and 3 did, there was an effect compared to treatment 1. But for treatment 2 and 3, there's no difference there. So that would be how you would interpret it, and that's the idea behind those test ranges. So that's how you do a basic bar graph with error bars. I hope this tutorial helped. Let me know if you have any questions.